Hello. Happy Japanese New Year. We've got 3 young Ozeki, 1 weathered Yokozuna, and a whole bunch of bolder predictions. Sunthrow!
Roll the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the Dohyo.
Hello and welcome to the Dohyo here on Mr. JWags channel. We are back for 2025 for another year of amazing sumo commentary. Now, if you took a little sumo break for the holidays, we understand all of the end-of-year 2024 sumo coverage is right here waiting for you with all of our updated sumo rankings and our last episode, whose year was 2024. And with the first episode of the new year, some sumo shoutouts. First of all, a huge shout out to all of our patrons. Thank you so much. We cherish your support. And some of you may notice that the credits look a little bit different on this episode and going forward. So if y'all are interested in getting a credit on the Dohyo, check out the Patreon. The more you support, the more episodes there will be. And a shout out to one specific patron, Brett Mueller. Now, apparently, Brett has been a longtime fan of the show, and he is also a school teacher here in New York City. He invited me down to his classroom at the Young Women's Leadership School of Astoria, and I got to do some improv workshops with him, and we had so much fun. So, Brett, thank you so much for taking the time to reach out and inviting me to help teach your students. They were amazing, they were lovely. And if anyone else is in the New York area and wants me to come out and, flex some non-sumo muscles, hit me up at mrjwagschannel@gmail.com. Alright, so this has been one of the more fun yet frustrating predictions episodes I have done in a while. Since we have not had a Basho in a long time where so many storylines seem to be coming to a peak all at once. So every time I do a bolder predictions, you sort of have to set my tentpole predictions, like the ones I'm pretty sure are going to happen, and then I have to sort of mathematically adjust everything else around that, because those very sure predictions are going to cause some ripple effects down the banzuke and for the rest of the predictions. So in the case of these predictions, I made some pretty strong assumptions right up at the top, and that really affects the rest of the math going down the banzuke. So the first bold prediction is that all of our Yokozuna and Ozeki, all 4 of them, will make it through day 10 of the tournament. Now, barring freak injury, I think we're all expecting the Ozeki to make it all 15 days, but Terunofuji is going to be the wild card, and I think the real question is how well is Terunofuji going to start, and will he stick around if he is not in contention? Because, as we all know, wins and losses in the ring affect the math much more than Kyujo does, where we simply remove the wrestler from the tournament. Now, if and when Terunofuji decides to go Kyujo, now that's going to affect the math a lot, because, of course, losses in the ring correspond to a win for another wrestler, whereas Kyujo absences just count as absences. And the bolder prediction, every Yokozuna and Ozeki that finishes all 15 days will get 10 plus wins. So yes, for the January Basho, I'm predicting a very top-down tournament. Now, we certainly know that all of our Yokozuna and Ozeki they're capable, they have the potential of getting double-digit wins in every single tournament, but can they get them all in the same tournament? I think so. So, soft spoiler, the Yusho pick is going to come from our top 4 wrestlers, the Ozeki and the Yokozuna. So if Terunofuji is healthy and goes all 15 days, that's 4 wrestlers that I'm expecting to get at least a 10 and 5. That's a plus 20 wins up at the top of the banzuke. Make sense? I have also predicted that someone from this group is going to win a Yusho, so we're going to probably need a few extra wins in there, since a 10 and 5 isn't going to get anyone a Yusho. I expect the June Yusho to come from these 4, so we've got to add a couple more wins in there. And there's a 5th Sanyaku member who I'm going to talk about in the 3 up, 3 down, that I think is also going to do very well with a 10 and 5 or better. So, just mathematically speaking, if those 5 wrestlers have the success I expect for them to have, then I'm going to need to find 30 losses to assign to the rest of the Sanyaku and Joy. Minimum. And if I may add, this is a very, very strong and experienced Sanyaku and Joy. 7 of our 8 Sanyaku members have won Yusho. So if we have all this excellence at the top of the banzuke, the losses are going to have to come from somewhere. Thus, my next bolder prediction. Except for one wrestler, who we're going to talk about in a bit, all of the lower Sanyaku and all of the Maegashira 1 through 3 on the west side will get between 6 and 8 wins. I think Wakataka Kage is going to get double-digit wins in the Sanyaku, but I don't think that's going to be the case for Abi, Wakamoto Haru, or Daisho. And that also includes Kirishima, Atami Fuji, and Oho. I just think those 6 wrestlers are going to be sort of caught in the middle between 6 and 8 wins, averaging about 7 wins between the 6 of them. This also means I do not think that Wakamoto Haru is going to have a successful Ozeki run. In fact, I think that 2025 might be the toughest year in recent memory for wrestlers attempting to make Ozeki. We've got a lot of excellence up at the top. Now, if we're looking for losses that we can then funnel upwards to our Ozeki and Yokozuna, I think that'll give us like 4 or 5 tops from those wrestlers. So the losses are going to have to come from somewhere else. So the next bold prediction, Maegashira's 1 through 4 on the east side will all get losing records. So that's Takanosho, Tobizaru, Gonoyama, and Shodai. And the bolder prediction is that Maegashira 1 East Takanosho and Maegashira 4 East Shodai are going to get double-digit losses. Yeah. Well, Shodai was just up at Komusubi, got a 4-11. I don't expect him to do much better with essentially the same schedule. And Takanosho has just been sort of yo-yoing up and down the banzuke. He has not really proven that he still has the Joy Sanyaku fight left in him. The last 2 times he was up in the Joy, he ended up getting double-digit losses. I expect that trend to continue. Now it's time for the recurring segment, 3 up, 3 down. It's where we look at 3 wrestlers who we think are overranked and are not going to do very well. And we look at 3 wrestlers I think are underranked and are going to do very well in the next tournament. So my 3 down, and this is in addition to the 1 through 4 Maegashiras on the east side. But in addition to them, I also feel that Maegashira 5, Chiyoshoma, is going to have a bad tournament. Now, Chiyoshoma has been around for a while, but he's never been what you would call a Joy regular. In fact, his highest ranked Kachikoshi is Maegashira 7. This is his 4th time at Maegashira 5, and his best record at Maegashira 5 in his career is 5-10. I am not optimistic about Chiyoshoma's chances up here. Next, down, Maegashira 6, Ichi Yamamoto. Now, this is a career high rank for Ichi Yamamoto, which usually sets off the warning bells a little bit. I see him as sort of dime store Abi, much of the similar sort of wrestler, but not quite as good. Now, last tournament, he only got an 8-7 at Maegashira 10, and he is now promoted up to Maegashira 6. Feels like an over-promotion. Although since he's not up in the Joy, I think there might be some wiggle room, but no, I do not expect a winning record from Ichi Yamamoto at his highest rank ever. And Maegashira 17 West, Toki Hayate. Yeah, he's the last man on the banzuke. I don't see him doing very well. Why do I say that? It's because every single time he's been up in Makuuchi, he's gotten a 6-9. So I think that's probably what he's going to get this time. Now, the 3 ups were a little bit difficult this time. Now, normally there are at least 3 wrestlers who are buried down in the banzuke who was like, they're totally underranked. They're going to do really well. Not this time. But I am going to start by saying that Komusubi Wakataka Kage is going to get 10+ wins. Yeah, I've got a lot of Wakataka Kage stock going into 2025. And as I said, I think he's the most likely to make Ozeki in the next 9 tournaments. He's come back very strong from the injury. He has 4 straight tournaments of double-digit wins, including a 10-5 last tournament up in the Joy. It looks like the skill level is back, and he is ready to make some noise. Now, I do not think he is going to be competing for the Yusho down the stretch, even though he is one of the very few wrestlers, and maybe the only wrestler, who has a winning record against all of our current Ozeki. He does have losing records against some surprising people. In addition to a 10-match losing streak to Terunofuji, so his absence or presence will be a huge deal for Wakataka Kage, he also has a 5-match losing streak to Abi and a losing record to Takanosho. The thing to keep in mind is that Wakataka Kage is at Komusubi, which means he's probably going to be facing all of the Sanyaku in the first week. So even if Wakataka Kage starts slow and ends the first week with like a 4-3 or a 5-3, don't worry, he's doing just fine. And our next 2 up I'm going to sort of combine because they come from the same stable, and I have similar predictions for the both of them. Maegashira 11, Terunofuji, and Maegashira 15, Hakuoho. I think both these guys are going to get winning records, and I think they are both going to get promoted pretty aggressively. This is because I think they're both excellent wrestlers and a little underranked, and also because they are part of the Isegahama stable, which has 7 wrestlers in the top division this tournament. That's right, 1 out of every 6 Makuuchi wrestlers is an Isegahama wrestler. So while at the top of the banzuke we have some wrestlers who are like in the same stable who aren't going to be able to face each other, it's usually like just 2 wrestlers, like Wakamoto Haru and Wakataka Kage, or Hoshodyu and Tobizaru, or Atami Fuji and Terunofuji. Not 7. So since the Isegahama team seems to be concentrated at the lower end of the Maegashira ranks, I think we're going to see a lot of the low Maegashira Isegahama guys get sort of bumped all the way around because they don't have as many options. Now, Terunofuji has had a lot of success, a lot of injury, and a lot of hype. I think he needs to start clearing a path in mid-Maegashira if he's going to start fulfilling the expectations some of us have for him later in the year. Hakuoho, of course, is returning to Makuuchi after that shoulder injury, but injury rehab seems to be working well, and he seems to be responding very well with the move to the Isagahama stable. I expect both of these wrestlers to get 9 or 10 wins where they're at right now in the banzuke. And now it's time for Which Way We Goin'? This is a recurring segment where we look at wrestlers who might be at a bit of a crossroads in their career, and we try to figure out which way they goin'. Now, normally when I do this segment, I have a whole bunch of wrestlers to talk about, but this time, there are only 2. See, when you're trying to put together like an accurate projection for 42 wrestlers over 15 days, you like to have a little bit of consistency in that, but these 2 wrestlers they've wreaked other havoc on my prediction skills. First off, Kirishima. Yeah. So the win totals for Kirishima's last 4 tournaments, all up in the Sanyaku, have been 1, 8, 12-win Junyusho, and 6. So if you can look at those numbers and tell me with any sort of confidence what you think Kirishima is going to do in January, you are a better predictor than I. It still looks like he's working his way through an injury. He's a 2-time Yusho champion, still in his peak at 28. You would expect him to not be done yet. But, as we know from last year, Takakeisho and Onosho both retired at 28. Not the years, it's the miles. So right now, I've got Kirishima between 6 and 8 wins, which I think is reasonably safe, but he could go either way, and that would mess up a lot of my math. That also goes for Terunofuji. We talked about him a little bit before. But yeah, not knowing whether or not your Yokozuna is going to finish a tournament really also affects the math. And also, I don't think you can overestimate the mental effect it would have to tell the Sanyaku Enjoy, hey, you're not facing Yokozuna Terunofuji. Instead, you're probably going to face Ura or Hirado Umi. So yes, for the sake of simplicity, I'd prefer it if Terunofuji were out. But the theater critic in me demands his performance for 15 days. Bolder prediction, the Judo Yusho will go to a Ukrainian. Yes, my double Ukrainian picks are Judo 4, Shishi, and Judo 5, Aonishiki. Now, Shishi's been around for a little bit, popped up to Makuuchi in the last tournament, didn't do too well, but he has 20 wins over his last 2 tournaments in Judo, so I'm optimistic. Now, Aonishiki has been tearing up the lower ranks, which surprises me a little bit because he's a little bit smaller than average, but he has had basically an unfettered rise from the bottom of my Sumo. His below-average size hasn't seemed to stop him yet, and I think either him or Shishi will take home the Judo crown. My bolder prediction, the Makushita Yusho will go to Makushita 8, Ishizaki. Now, in addition to being the younger brother of judo fighter Asa Koryu, Ishizaki is also an amateur champion who received Makushita Tsukedashi, so he's already up at the top of the Makushita ranks after only 3 tournaments. And in his past 3 tournaments, all in Makushita, he's gotten 16 wins, including 2 6-1s, 1 away from the Yusho. I think he's going to do it this time. All right. You've waited this long, but I gotta say, this was a tough one. For those of you who remember the movie Clue, I have 3 endings for this episode, but I am going to pick one of them. Now, obviously, there's the absolute most satisfying Yusho scenario, where Hoshoryu and Kotozakura have a playoff on the final day at 13-2. Hoshoryu wins! Double Yokozuna promotion! But don't forget about Terunofuji. He gets a 12-3 and heads off into that sunset with some respect. But Onosato only gets a 10-5, and he doesn't like that. And he begins to prepare. Alright, so obviously, that's the most baller timeline. Don't think it's going to happen exactly like that. Then we have the least satisfying ending, which I think would end up being Terunofuji getting his 11th Yusho with like a 13-2, but he ends up winning it on like a hair pull call and clinching everything on day 14, so day 15 isn't really that exciting. That I think would be the least satisfying Yusho, but I don't think that's going to happen either. So what will happen? So normally, I like to trust the stats, I like to trust the history, I like to trust the head-to-head. But if our whole theory for this Basho is that we have 3 young Ozeki all hitting their peaks at roughly the same time, how much is past going to really affect the future? How much is head-to-head going to be predictive? I will say that early success is going to be key for all of our Yusho contenders. I don't think this is going to be like Harimafuji's last Yusho, where he ended up like starting 4-4 and then just winning out. I don't think 11 or 12 wins is going to get the Yusho this time. And we have guys like Abi, Wakataka Kage, and Kirishima who are down in Komusubi in the top of Maegashira. Perfect spoiler position for our Ozeki and Yokozuna. Ultimately, I think success in this tournament is going to come down to who can rack up wins in the first week. Which brings me to my bold prediction. I think Hoshoryu is going to lose 2 of his first 6 matches. I agree that Hoshoryu had a great tournament last tournament. I agree he's going to be super, super motivated, but is that going to be enough in a tournament where there's going to be a lot of healthy excellence at the top of the banzuke? I just think of all of our top 4, I think Hoshoryu is the most likely to drop a few to Maegashira in the first week, and I think that's going to be fatal for his Yusho chances this tournament. And my bolder prediction, Terunofuji shows up, starts the tournament, and wins his first 6 in a row. At the very least, we should know which Terunofuji showed up to the Basho by the end of day 6. Next bold prediction, Ozeki Kotazakura gets the June Yusho and does not get promoted. Yeah. Now, the June Yusho for this one, I expect to be 11 or 12 wins. Now, as I have said, there is precedent for a 12-3 June Yusho counting as a Yusho equivalent. I just don't think the YDC is going to give them the benefit of the doubt this time. Especially if Terunofuji, looks good this tournament. So the Yusho pick is Ono Sato wins his 3rd Yusho with a 13-2 record and starts his own Yokozuna run. Alright, took me a long time to figure out this Yusho pick, but I'm gonna show my math. First of all, Kotazakura, last time he had an amazing tournament, he ended up getting 10 wins to follow that tournament up. Last time Hoshoryu had an amazing tournament when he won his Yusho, he ended up getting 8 wins in the tournament after that. The last time Ono Sato got a 9-6, he ended up winning the next tournament with a 13-2. Of our top 4 wrestlers, Ono Sato is the youngest, he's the biggest, he's had the most success winning 2 of the last 4 tournaments, and he's still improving. So yeah, when it comes down to it, if everyone shows up healthy and focused, I think the best wrestler is Ono Sato. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Dohyo. It's a brand new year and we're glad you decided to join us. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. I promise you that really does help YouTube. Get to know the Dohyo and get it to the people who want to see it the most, who haven't yet figured out that they want to see it yet. And also, if you've been around the Dohyo for a little bit and want to check out the Patreon, we would love your support. Once again, the more support we get, the more episodes there will be. And of course, one more shout out for our new group of supporting producers. Look how cool they look up there. All right, stay tuned to the channel. You're not going to want to miss any of our January coverage. This is going to be a real good basho, I hope. And you're not going to want to miss our quick strikes and our recap to come. All right, everyone, stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Dohyo.